morning. We are live. Hello, LinkedIn. Hi to anyone who's watching from any other platforms. Welcome to the Ignite Leadership series. Very excited to be here. I had a week off last week, so I missed you all. I have Kerri Lampard coming on today, all the way from Singapore. Kerri works for Cisco, and I will introduce her properly in a few minutes. In the meantime, just giving people the opportunity to get onto the stream, including myself. So I'm just going to check and get my everything running on the side here. And I see we have people coming on already. So welcome to the stream. I just want to give you a quick overview of what this is about and why I do this, because I'm very passionate about bringing these conversations to you, and there is good reason for that. So one thing that I have been lucky to be doing for pretty much my whole career, but for the last 20 years at least, is meeting with and talking to incredibly smart and successful people in the technology space. And I'd always looked for a way to be able to bring those people to others. So to introduce them, often thinking, gosh, you should meet that person and you should meet that person. And you know, recognizing that there is wisdom everywhere in this space, and wanting to bring things, I suppose, a little bit away from the theory books and bring a bit of reality to the mentoring process in leadership. So that said, as soon as LinkedIn offered live as an option, I saw that as an opportunity to bring these conversations to you. So I am blessed to have a network of fabulous technology leaders and lots of up and coming leaders as well. I've seen people who have started their leadership career, and I've watched them traverse the leadership landscape. I've seen people who've decided to move into leadership and then realize perhaps that's not the place for them, and people who have been leaders and been amazing mentors throughout. So I'm very pleased to be able to bring some of that to you. We are coming close to 11:30, which is go live time. So I will just give you a quick briefing on what I would love from you guys today. So this is an opportunity for everybody to be involved in the conversation. I would love for you to bring your curiosity, bring your questions. This is a great environment for you to be able to ask questions of someone who has a great deal of experience in the technology space and in the leadership space as well. And, you know, I'm just going to add on a female in leadership in technology as well. So that is something that may well come up in conversation today. So please bring your questions. Let us know you are there. Let us know that you are watching, where you're watching from. Please comment if there's anything interesting that comes up for you, even if you have no questions. We would just love you to be involved in the conversation rather than just listening to all of us. Hi, Joel. I'm excited too. Joel is psyched. So I hope everybody else is. On that note, drum roll, please. I'm going to bring in Kerri, and I'll introduce her to you in a moment. Kerri, can you hear us?
Good morning, Rebecca.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fab. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. You've missed all the wonderful windy weather in Melbourne in the last 24 hours. We've had, you guys, I don't think you have so much of the wind in Singapore, but we've had awful winds and lots of SAS calls over the last 24 hours, which has been fun.
Well, the good news is you're in lockdown, so you always
yeah, exactly. We don't have an excuse. We've got an excuse not to go out in it. Like the kids didn't really have to go to school or anything like that, so it's good. So look, welcome and thank you for joining. I'm going to give everybody just a quick intro on you. So if you can just sit there and smile for me while I say wonderful things about you, that would be great. So Kerri Lampard leads the architecture and engineering team in the APJC Partner Sales team for Cisco Systems. She's responsible for developing and executing technology and architecture strategy and partner go-to-market functions for Cisco for the Cisco partner ecosystem in the APJ region, which is a huge mandate. She has been responsible for services alliances globally for Cisco's technology, if I can read properly, software and an analytics business. She's been with Cisco for almost 23 years in various roles. So that's a mean feat in itself. And generally aligned to the partners and alliances world, but working in various countries and various sort of businesses for Cisco across the world. Kerri's been recognised on the CRN's Women of the Channel in 2020 and 2015, is a global advisory board member of the Association of Strategic Alliance Professionals, and co-founded the Asia Collaborative Business Community. So she's not busy at all, obviously. So welcome, Kerri. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your day. I would love to just start with some questions straight away if you're ready for it.
Let's go.
All right. So
start easy.
I'll be gentle. All right. So as I always like to know and ask in these conversations, what was it for you that got you into leadership? So can you just tell us what your track was into leadership?
So there's probably a longer answer to that question, but in the official sense of leadership, in leading a team of people, there was a role, a global role that I applied for that required me to build out a team. And so that was my sort of first official foray into leading a team, if I would put it that way, versus leadership, maybe.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. And so when you were asked to, or can you elaborate on that a little bit? So tell me a little bit more about what that role was. Yeah.
So that was early 2000s, mid 2000s maybe. So we were focused on building out our alliances. I was in the services business at the time, and we were focused on building out our alliance and our partnerships with a number of our ecosystem partners. Such at that time it was EMC, VMware, NetApp, etc. And so I had to build a team of people who needed to manage those relationships globally with those other technology vendors.
Okay, so you were more given a problem to solve, and then you had to build the structure and strategy around that.
Build everything that went with that. So what is that going to look like for us? What are the metrics we're going to have to define around that? What team do you need in order to execute against that, etc. So yes, it was not only a, hey, go manage a team of people, it was also a go build a brand new function.
Yeah, okay. And was that something you sought out for your career? Did you go looking for leadership, or did it just kind of come to you?
So I define leadership, and I guess that's where I started with the first answer to your question. You don't have to lead a team to be a leader.
Yeah.
And so, if I think about the roles where I was an individual contributor and I was leading virtual teams of people across Asia Pacific or across the globe, you need to still bring those leadership skills, despite the fact that it's not people that are working for you. And actually, I would say it's probably even a little harder to do when you've got to do it in that virtual environment. So I would challenge that we need to look at and think that leadership is how we show up and what we bring. It's not that you are leading a team of people. So yes, my leadership was quite early on in my career, when I had to sit on executive QBRs with our vice presidents and things like that, with representing a team of people that were doing the work.
Okay. Yeah. So really interesting. And so do you think then that you always had a leadership mindset from the get-go? It was just the way you, because I think sometimes it's a way you think, and it, like you say, it's a way you show up. So is that just a natural thing for you?
Yeah, I think it is to some degree. I'm very much a connector, a networker, and a connector from a personality and how I build my business relationships and things like that. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, and then when I think about what motivates me every day, and so for me, that's being challenged in what I do, looking for the status quo is kind of never enough. And so for me, I'm always like, okay, I know that's good, but it can be better. And so I think when you combine sort of those attributes, which is, what motivates me, it's my passion. I think, yes, I probably had that natural tendency towards, leading virtual teams, leading teams, etc. So.
Yeah. And do you find, because you've obviously done both, do you find it's more challenging to lead virtual teams and people who maybe don't necessarily report to you? Or is it more challenging leading your own teams, or a bit of both?
I think it's both. And, if you look at the last 12, 15 months, it has been extremely challenging to be a leader, because I need to care for the mental and physical health and well-being of all the people that work for me. And, they're spread across all of APJC. And as we've gone through this pandemic, different countries have had different stages of situations. Right now, I have a team of people based in India that have been doing it very difficult. And so, it's those check-ins. I had people who were working for me here in Singapore who are here alone. And so when we were in our 2-month lockdown, the mental well-being of those people not being able to leave their apartment for 2 months, living on their own, it's those kinds of things. So I think this has really challenged us relative to that direct management and having to find different ways to connect with people and keep the team connected and things like that. When you're leading a virtual team, you need to be able to kind of set a vision, ensure everybody is connected to that vision. They see how their role is connected to where you as a group are going, regardless of where you're reporting into. And it's the same, even as you move up. I mean, yes, I have a direct manager, but I have 3 other vice presidents that I'm responsible for their business. And so while I may work for one of them, I have to make sure. And so how am I linking in, and how am I part of their extended teams so that I can do what I need to do for them?
Yeah, it must be very challenging. And I know you and I touched on this concept of leading without authority, and how challenging that can be, but also how important it is for people in any capacity to be thinking that way. And we mentioned Keith Ferrazzi and his books, which I'm going to I'll put a connection in on this, because I think that is a very powerful. I mean, what he has to say on leading without authority there's some really interesting little tidbits in there that are worth having. You said you'd seen it.
I haven't read his most recent one, so I have to admit that one. But we had him at a conference many, many years ago. I think it was when he had released his first book about not eating alone, something like that.
Never Eat Alone or something, I think it's called.
Yeah. And so we had him there, and it just really resonated with me, because it helped, it cemented for me those concepts of, that personal board. Like who is that group of people that are going to tell you how it is, good or bad? They're supportive, they're encouraging, but they're also going to tell you, maybe that one wasn't quite maybe, and you can have that conversation. And so So from that one, and then the next book he had, which was Who's Got Your Back, right? So I read both of those. I haven't read the last one around Leading Without Authority, so I guess I put that on the summer reading list. But I think it's all in that same vein around relationship, connections, networking, building your board, and being very engaged with that board, whether it's, coaches, mentors, sponsors, but, leveraging that for you both personally and professionally.
Absolutely. We could have a 60-minute conversation just on this subject, and I try and avoid myself going down too deeply down these rabbit holes. So for a moment, I'm going to just take a breath and have a look in the chat box and see who's here, because there are a number of people commenting, and I feel like I'm being rude ignoring. So Joel had jumped in early on. Hi, Joel. Aniket Tolwa, who I believe is possibly someone you know. Aniket says, woohoo, Kerri, quite definitely one of the most inspiring leaders I've ever worked with. There you go. So that was important to read out. Sorry, there's a little bit of a chat going on between people. And then we've got Varsha, you're a superstar, Kerri, always leading by example and in action. This is why I've got you on here, because I knew this about you. Crystal Go is here. She's giving you some positive vibes as well.
So Crystal was an intern in my team last summer.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
fantastic.
So each summer we take on a couple of interns into the team, and so she was an intern in my team last summer, and so it's fabulous. Hi, Crystal. Good to see you out there. So she's now graduated and moved into the workforce, which is fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic.
But it's important.
Exciting.
It's bringing on that young talent. It's again with that, mentoring that young talent. I'm hoping she'll come back to Cisco someday, so I put that out there.
Yeah, no pressure, Crystal. And is it? I think it's. Is it? I'm not sure if it's Rasa or Racer. I'm not sure how I say it. Lovely to see you, Kerri. Long way from our old channel line of business days at Cisco. Well done for your recent awards. Luke Power is acknowledging that you're a standout in the Cisco business and everybody loves working with you. Hi, Luke. We've got Tang Leong. Kerri's a leader of passion. Lots of you got lots of fans you've got on here today. Someone else who's a LinkedIn user, let me see who that is. Okay, Maitri. Sorry if I'm not saying the names correctly. Indebted and super fortunate to have Kerri as a mentor and a friend. Amazing leader, incredible person. And Crystal says, haha, yeah. Yes. So thank you for your comments, guys. Please, any questions you have for Kerri, please put them into the chat. We're really pleased to have you here. And just to sort of jump back in, that's a really good segue into a conversation around, you came into the industry as a young woman, and you fairly quickly moved into roles where I'm guessing you were leading people who were technically savvy, who were perhaps more mature than you. And obviously, especially back then, there was quite a difference when it was women in the workforce. So I'm just going to let's just call out the elephant in the room. And so you've been on a huge journey. Did you align yourself to a lot of mentors along the way? Have there been people who've sort of mentored you? And I know we talked about sponsors as well.
Yeah. So yes, back in the late 90s, going into the tech industry was an interesting time as a young female who didn't come from a technical background. And so, yes, it was definitely an interesting time and challenge. So, but, so what I looked at, and some of the people will know the story of, I would go into meetings and people would be like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you," and then they'd be looking behind me for where the person that actually they thought they were meeting with was, because it couldn't possibly have been me. And Kerri is a name that could be a male or a female. So when I had that happen to me a few times, it was like, okay, clearly they're expecting something else. And so, what can I do? How do I take control over this? How do I find a way to get over whatever that initial hurdle was with people? And I kind of worked that it was because there was a perception, as a female, not being technical background, etc. So I took a hard path. At least it was hard for me. I'm sure for everyone else it's probably easy, but for me it was a hard path. So I went and did my entry-level technical Cisco certification. So I went and did my CCDA and my CCNA. And that was purely because I wanted, on my business card, I wanted to put those on there so that back when we had business cards, when I would hand that over, people would go, "Oh," and it was almost like this, "Oh, okay, I can talk to you now." I didn't have to, by doing that, it stopped me having to fight X number more battles that I seemed to have to fight for some reason. And so, so it started from there. And kind of breaking down, just identifying those barriers, whether they were real or whether they were just perceived by me, I'm not sure. But certainly I felt that by having that, and look, maybe it was just my confidence level. Maybe when I had them, I walked into the room a little taller and a little stronger. I'm not sure. But it certainly helped then, throughout as I had those meetings and continued to develop on my career. But all the way along, I always have had mentors and sponsors. For, whether they have been sort of long-term engagements or whether they were short-term. There was a point in my career where there was a particular role I wanted. Like, I want that job. So I approached the leader of the team that had those people working for them and said, "Look, in 2 or 3 years, I want that job. So can you send me your job description? Can you tell me what you look for when you interview? Can you tell me, where you see how I show up or don't show up at the moment? Can I ask you if you have some kind of a stretch assignment that you're looking for?" At that stage, I was working in a regional role. I said, "If you need regional input on something, can I be on a stretch or a project that you're working on to be that voice for you, but so that I can see what those people do?" And so that was a very targeted engagement where I basically had them mentor me to the point of where I got that job in 2 years. So, there's been those sort of very finite, I want that. I see you as a leader in that way, or I really respect how you handle those things. Can I help? Can you help me with this? Or it's kind of just a more long-term engagement, mentorship from a career and or a personal perspective.
Okay, fantastic. So there's a number of things that have come up while you've been talking that have made me sort of go, "Oh, I need to ask about this." We have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to ask a couple. So one thing one thing I love about what you're saying is that when you had that issue come up as a female early on, whether it was your own perception or whether it was, the perception of whatever it was, you just took ownership of it and you actually did something that gave you the confidence to move forward and perhaps gave other people confidence in dealing with you and just cut out that first sort of awkward situation. But the fact is that you took ownership of it and you made that happen. So I just think that's a really powerful thing to shine a light on. Is that something that because I know you mentor a lot of people now, is that something that you work on with them in terms of strengths that perhaps on the softer skill side is taking ownership and so forth? Or what are the things that you would sort of work on with a mentoree?
I think at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control and how you react to things you can't control.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think if you take that mindset around, okay, do I have some level of control around whatever this is, such as the situation I had early in my career? And in which case it was like, well, I can. So let me do this and see if that helps. And if not, okay, then let's reassess and see what that is. And if it's something that you can't control directly, you need to look at, okay, I know that's going to be there. So how do I react when that happens? How do I let that impact me? And so, there's a great book. I just know it's TED. It's about, I'm trying to think of the full name of it. I'll send it to you later, Rebecca.
We can put that in the notes.
It's TED, and it's basically it's around the drama triangle.
Yeah.
So the victim, the persecutor, etc. And it's like, what role do I want to play? How do I want to show up? So yes, I could have been a victim and gone, all those people, why don't they just understand my, or I could be a creator in that situation, say, hey, no, you know what? I'm going to go find the opportunities of how to solve for this. So it's, and I think that applies to everybody. I use that with my kids. When they've got a situation going on at school, I think it's just a sort of a philosophy of, okay, what can I do about it if I can? And if not, how do I deal with it?
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah.
It's the power of TED.
Yes. It is. It's a powerful thing. And so the other thing that came up for me when you were talking and has again in this part of the conversation is self-awareness. So it's being aware and then being open to receiving feedback, because that's really important in all of this as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorites is Brené Brown.
Yeah.
Right. The philosophy of Brené Brown, and being vulnerable to be able to receive, to be able to connect with people, etc. We're not all perfect, and when we all put up this thing to say, hey, we're perfect, and how are you going to live up? It's like, sorry, but so being able to express that, and we have bad days, or whatever it is, we've got something personal going on, or and so just being able to have that awareness, but also being able to show that vulnerability, that when you do that, it helps rise everybody up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it builds trust and oh, look, there's so many powerful things. Again, I can spend another 60 minutes on this topic as well. So I'm going to have to get you offline, and we're going to have some more deep dive conversations, if that's all right. Someone here has actually described you as a fearless and bold leader. So that came from Malik. I'm not sure how you say it. Sorry. He said, an absolute honor to work with Kerri, fearless and bold leader. So there you go. So even with the vulnerability, fearless and bold is what comes across. And I think that's really powerful. Craig Ginsberg's asking a question. Thank you, Craig. He says, would you describe your career advancement as a prolonged series of wins, or was there a particular success story that helped you move up the ladder? That's a great question.
And Craig is coming to you from the US, by the way. So
hi, Craig.
he's up late, I can tell.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't it the middle of the night? Yeah.
Not quite. Hi, Craig. Wow. I would add there were steps of success, and there were also steps of setbacks, if you're honest, right? I mean, my career journey hasn't been this, hey, rocket ship to no. And so sometimes you take 2 steps forward and then you take 1 step back. I find that when I take the biggest risks, I usually get the biggest rewards. So that has been kind of a thing where I've been really nervous as hell, but willing to, really step out of my comfort zone. I'm comfortable outside my comfort zone, but like really step outside of it.
Yeah.
Then those have been the biggest rewards for me. Back, like even for me when I joined Cisco, I didn't come from a tech background. So, coming in and going, I'm going to go get a job. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, right. And so that was a huge risk for me, leaving what I was doing previously and coming in and starting out in the tech industry. But 20 years later, I would say it's been my biggest reward. So being able to stretch yourself, being able to step outside that comfort and take a few risks. I try not to have regrets around things. So that's another kind of, if I don't do it, am I going to go back and say, did I regret not doing that? So yeah, I mean, joining Cisco was one. Taking a global role was absolutely one. It was highly difficult. I was still based out of Asia, but doing a global role. So I basically worked all night. I had no life. I lived on a plane back when we could fly, when we knew what those things were. And so, yeah, those would be the two big ones, were joining Cisco and then stepping into a global role, were the two big kind of propellers in my career, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Hopefully that's answered your question, Craig. And Craig says he's looking forward to his conversation with you that's coming up soon. It just says looking forward to our conversation coming up soon. Now, and Varsha said, loves the insight, Kerri. Mindset matters. Life is about taking action and what you can control, and it's also about how you react and what you can't control. Yeah, great point. +1 on Brene Brown. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a great opportunity recently. She was part of a series that Cisco ran, and I mean, whether it's her podcasts or whatever, her books, I do refreshes constantly just to make sure am I still in that mindset. So yes.
Yeah, I love her leadership manifesto. Yeah. So I call myself a Brene Brown and a Simon Sinek groupie, and I feel like it's all a bit cliche, but they have some fantastic philosophies and strategies around how to do it as well. So,
but it's the how you make it real, right? I mean, some of the books, you said this in your opening. Some of the books are just the theoreticals.
Yeah.
And there's the others where it's like, yeah, okay, I see how I absolutely take that into practice, how I embody that, how that works for me. I mean, some of the stuff I read stuff and I go, no. Others you read and go, yeah, okay, I see how I can bring that, how that would make a difference for me, or how that makes a difference for people who I interact with, or things like that. So yes.
Yeah. Awesome. You're not going to believe it, but we've got 1 minute left. It flies when you're having fun. Now, Vash has asked a question. I'm going to ask that question. I'm just going to add my question to it because I usually have a final question. My final question is, and I'll ask the two together. Mine is, if you could only leave one piece of advice, what would it be for upcoming leaders? But Varsha has asked, what are your top 1 to 3 leadership lessons / practices that you've learned through this pandemic? So perhaps the two will kind of blend. Which will you carry in the future of hybrid work?
Well, gosh, the pandemic's taught us a lot of things. It's been fantastic in that, we've had sessions where we've gotten to know the team better through, having mindful shifts to our conversations, to where we'll have a meeting where there's no business conversation. It's just checking in on each other. It's introduce me to your kids or your parents, or what are you passionate about outside of work? I found out I've got 3 pilots on the team, and one member of my team has a patent that has nothing to do with technology, and things that honestly I probably would never have otherwise known. So it's keeping that deeper personal connection for everybody on the team, because that then builds a level of trust and engagement across the entire team. It's not just with me, it's the whole team, because it's back to that kind of when we're all together, we all rise up, right? It's not about one person, etc. So so that one would definitely be one, that just taking that deeper level of. The other one is absolutely, is everyone being vulnerable, being open, being, you know, it's if you're just not there because you're just not having a good day or something else is going on, it's okay. You know, we used to have this thing, you couldn't share. Like, that was not okay to say, hey, I'm having a bad day, or I'm having I think this pandemic has made it okay to be not okay. Okay to say, look, sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you, or I didn't mean to be, and situations like this, you know, real leadership shines when things are hard. It's easy to be a leader when things are going well. And so real leadership shines when it's tough, and how you handle those tough things. And so I think those are kind of those are the things that I would continue at a deeper level than probably we were doing before.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
She loves it. She's, well said. Thank you. And I think this is the thing for me, is I just do hope that we carry a lot of the lessons learned, not just in business, but in life, forward after this pandemic, and that we are mindful, and it's not just a 6-month window and then we forget, you know, because it does have a great impact on how we build teams as well, and how we are as humans together. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what would be your one piece of advice that you would give if you could only give one piece of advice on leadership? What would it be?
Oh God, on leadership, I think it's just about being a person. You know, I think you need to just, how you want to be treated is how you should treat others, fundamentally.
Yeah.
And then people see that. And then when you lead with empathy, when you lead with engagement, when you lead with a connection, whether you're leading a team or you're leading a virtual team or whatever it is, people naturally will gravitate.
Yeah.
Because they will, you know, there'll be a liken to what they can say, oh yeah, I can see how I can work with that group, or I can see how that's going to move things forward. So when you lead with that approach, and then you drive that into action, for me, that's the winning strategy.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. There is another question in the chat from Amit, and I'm kind of conscious that we've run 4 minutes over time. So would you prefer that we answer that in the chat afterwards, or do you want me to throw that at you quickly before we close up?
Fine. I did buffer a little extra time, so I'm fine.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you. So he says, when taking those quantum leaps, how are you able to convince the selectors that you have the aptitude, attitude, and mindset to be able to do the role? Thank you.
Wow.
Great question. That's a big question.
That's a huge question. Maybe I will have to answer that one in the chat window, maybe. But look, I have never been 100% meeting the criteria for a job. And you know, there's actually research that says that oftentimes women don't take those steps unless they're highly confident that they're going to meet those requirements. So I think having that confidence that you are enough, you have enough, you are enough. Do your research, how you show up. They know if you're going to fudge. So if you don't know something, you know, you use a different example to showcase why what you bring is better or different than what maybe they were looking for. So, you know, I've had a couple of times where they've wanted a particular thing, but when I've gone in, they've actually repivoted a little bit what the role was, because as we had our conversation, they're like, oh, I like that idea, or that's a different concept, or So, you know, I challenge anyone to say that they were 100% a match of all of the prerequisite requirements for a particular job. I've never had a situation that I've been that.
Yeah.
But you've got to, don't let that get in your way. Be confident, and then think of what uniqueness you bring that makes them stand up and go, hey, you know what, that wasn't on our, or that person didn't have that particular thing, but they bring so much more.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I
think that's a brilliant answer. And you know what you've just described, if you're doing all those things, that really puts across your attitude, your aptitude, and your mindset, because of the way you think and the way you put yourself out there and the way you show up. So I think that's really powerful response to that. Thank you. Hopefully that's helpful, Amit. All right. Well,
if not, chat with me later, Amit.
Awesome. Thank you. Fantastic. So look, I really hope we can have some offline conversations and just drill down on some of those things we've touched on that I wanted to get more detailed about. So I will come back and hit you up for some time for that. Hopefully you'll be able to share some with me maybe after financial year and things. Yeah, appreciate it. And there's lots of thanks coming through. We had, I think we had about 36 people on at one point today. So thank you from all of them, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people watching it in the on the recording as well. Please let us know if you are watching the recording, and we're more than happy to answer any questions for you if you put them into the comment section. So thanks again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank
you everyone for joining and listening, and Rebecca for hosting, you know, a great series for people to connect and engage.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, it's a pleasure. I love it. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. And I will see you next week. Next week, I have another Singaporean female in the technology sector. I have Belinda Jurisic joining us from Veeam. So that's really exciting too. So we're looking forward to that. I'll see you hopefully next week. Okay. Take care, everyone.